Hello? Oh boy. I think things are not working right. Give me a minute to. Oh god, I just had this working. Please forgive me. This is the first time I'm trying to use a capture card. Alright, I think you should hear it now. I'm gonna have to open up Twitch on my end. Ah, damn you, Twitch. How do you let me get to mobile dashboard now? I gotta quickly check my audio to make sure. Can anybody hear the music?
Caution.
Hey, Tank, thanks for the follow. Okay, I can hear the music in mobile, so that's pretty good. Alright. So yeah, this is the first time I'm trying to do something with a capture card. I hope it goes well. I've messed around with this a little bit, but I haven't really... I messed around with it and I thought I had everything set up in OBS, and then I went to do it today and nothing was set up. So we're gonna... Yeah, Panzer IV! We're gonna... I think we're gonna go back to the start. God, I got a lot farther in this than I thought I did. We're probably going to be skipping most of the story because there are fairly lengthy talking scenes between everything. Oh yeah, I've also had a couple drinks tonight, so I thought this was a fun, silly game to play. Alright, we have to... What are we doing? Tell me what we're doing. Which button is the skip button? Right bumper, I think. Right one? Who knows? It has been quite a while since I've actually fired this game up, so I don't remember any of the controls. I'm trying to just get in. Oh my god, I forgot how long these sequences were. But for this game, you primarily are just playing through the movie. We're gonna play as Miho, the main character, because of course, why not? It's the opening theme. Well, not the opening theme. The title theme of Der Film. And it's actually totally not the theme of Recess. Do 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 do. Oh god, this looks terrible on my screen. Like, this art looks fine, but the 3D graphics look awful. So for anybody not familiar with Girls and Panzer, the entire plot is that there is a high school sport that is Taekwondo or Senshido, and it's not a manly sport. Only girls do it. It's very feminine, and they crew World War II tanks. And I think this is still really loud. I can't hear myself think, so I gotta drop the sound down a bit. I don't know if it's working. We did nothing, so let's try going for the side armor on this Matilda. Yes, clearly they're drinking tea. Tea is delicious. Yeah, the show just doesn't acknowledge the silliness of it, which makes me think it's like some really horrible dystopian society where like humanity has been ravaged with wars so bad, because technically all the schools that you encounter are Japanese schools, right? I think. So there's clearly like something awful's going on. But I do really appreciate how the series is done, because unlike a lot of other series where the main character is a really good commander and just, you know, does well because of pure coincidence, what's really good with Girls and Panzer is that, like, if you look at the tanks that Miho has to work with, she aside from the Stug and the Panzer IV, which is this tank she's in, and the Stug isn't here right now, most of these tanks are kind of what would be considered reject tanks for World War II. Like, if you just look at the M3 Lee here, this tank right in front of us, this was literally built as a stopgap tank in World War II by the US until they could build the M4 Sherman. Sorry, I'm a big tank nerd, so I know a lot about US World War II tanks. But despite having all of these reject tanks, she does use them to a believable degree in managing to make use of their strengths. What am I supposed to actually be doing here? I'm not damaging anything. Charge! Still a better game than World of Tanks. Oh, I missed that quick reload. It has quick reload mechanics similar to, what is it, Gears of War? Okay, so we, I don't remember doing this level, and we're not supposed to win this fight, or I guess maybe in the game you succeed, it just does a cutscene. I'm not sure. But now we're not really doing any damage to her. It's a little odd. But man, I got into World of Tank, or Girls and Panzer, sorry, because me and one of my friends were really into World of Tanks during high school. And I've played so much World of Tanks, it's absurd. But I don't ever want to go back because it's just way too toxic. Not doing any damage to the rear. I don't know, maybe I should have paid attention. Oh, we can do damage to the side of these guys, I guess. It wasn't before. And I can't imagine the armor penetration mechanics are very good at all in this game. Oh, we got hit somewhere. We might actually lose this. Scratch damage. We should be dealing full damage from the side, come on. We're only doing slivers. We may have to redo this level. I swear, guys, I'm good with tanks. As our tank is on fire. Yeah, I think we lost. Yes, we have to charge in. Always charge in. Seize the initiative. Charge! Yeah, and then they just grab screen caps from the movie. We got stat stuff. I was really surprised to see this game because, man, I'd heard about it, and then I read that the Switch doesn't have region locks. So I'm like, oh boy, like this game didn't come out for English-speaking companies, but I'm gonna buy it anyway, and I'll just try to struggle my way through the menus and see what happens. But then I got it, and it's like, oh no, it has an English mode in it, so you can actually play it and understand what the heck's going on. But they like never really sold it on the English market. Alright, let me just check the settings, because this is kind of like a visual novel kind of thing. Ooh. Nope, not settings. Is there a controls? Huh. Well, I guess I just have to painfully try to skip through all the dialogue, or I have to try to read it in voices, which will be awful for everybody. I will lose all of my trains of thought today, so bear with that. Alright, next chapter. Skip, 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 skip. So we got the edgy team and the history team just talked with us. Now we got the main team saying stuff to us. Well, while we're doing this, I'll explain further. I mentioned I'm a big, huge World War II tank nerd. I actually own multiple books on the World War II M4 Sherman. I kind of got lost down that rabbit hole just because of random stuff. And I found out that there's a whole lot more to that tank than you think of on the surface. And I got interested and I started researching the crap out of it. And that's how I became a huge World War II tank nerd, because there's a lot more than just the initial stats that like Wikipedia tells you about the thing. There's tons of nuances, and the M4 Sherman in its case, I think it has like 20 different total variants, and it's just absurd. It's the main theme again. At my in my D&D group, I play the music to set the tone, because usually my best friend DMs, and I know I'm on the same page with him when he's like trying to make things spooky and whatnot. So I play the music most of the time, but in my general like whatever time, nothing's really going on music, I have this song. And whenever we hear it, it disrupts the game to an extent, because everybody's like, it's the recess music again. And I have shown all of my friends Girls in Panzer, but we have an agreement that if I am going to show them Girls in Panzer, I have to buy them a bunch of booze first. Wait, we're doing the same level again. Oh, I can hit plus and skip the story. Okay, let me go back to the menu. I swear I'm paying attention. It's K, but suddenly her boobs are smaller than usual. Something, something. Anime fan service. Skip. What was it? I had heard the there is another episode of, well, it's not Das Finale anymore. It's like Senseido. So the Das Finale. There's like another episode out. I think it's 3 or 4 is out now. And we haven't gotten it subbed yet. I can't wait for that. Now we just need a sequel to High Fury, because that movie for High Fury, which High Fury, if you don't know, is Girls in Panzer but with ships, and there's actually some stakes because they're doing live fire and they don't have like magical tanks that don't let the crew get hurt. Oh, we are fighting T-34s. That's just a standard T-34. Yeah, it tells me the T-34-76. Loading. Fire! I think he's down. Let's confirm. Yep, he's down. Got the IS and another. Could you like not charge in? You're blocking my line of fire, please. Let's take out the other T-34-76. Ah! I was just about to reload, and you're gonna interrupt me with dialogue. Don't give me your story. Is it down? No, it's not down yet. Ute! There we go. All right, we got to slag 2 tanks, and now we got to run. The game is really loud, and I'm just now realizing I can actually just turn down the volume on my headset. Damn it. I never said I was smart. On to the next. We're in the urban environment area. Story skip. Oh god, we have multiple angles to play this from. We're just going to play it from the original angle. See, isn't this way better than Warthunder and World of Tanks? And what was the third one? Armored Warfare. Is Armored Warfare even still around? Armored Warfare, I played that back in closed beta. I think it was closed beta. But as soon as I got like out of the starter stuff and stopped doing player versus an environment, you just like pop in and oh, you get hit by an M60 Starship's Shillelagh missile. GG. Because everything's got anti-tank guided missiles. You just die if you don't have them. Alright, so this is the Stug. The Stug being a, what people call tank destroyer or armored assault gun. It's not really a tank, but it's a gun on tracks. And giving up the turret makes it smaller and a lot less expensive. More military games need to star exclusively cute anime girls. Absolutely. I used to when I used to play World of Tanks, I used to play it with the Girls and Panzer mods because there were World of Tanks did like an official collab with Girls and Panzer at some point. Because if you look at Der Film and Das Finale, Wargaming is credited as historical consultants, and by that it's really actually just Nicholas Morian, the also known as the Chieftain on YouTube. He is credited with doing a lot of their historical consultation. God, I can't speak. And he really knows his stuff. But they did a collab with Girls in Panzer, and they made like a voice pack and some skins, and they were mainly for the Asian server, but you can just download them and forcibly install them anyway, and it's pretty fun. And they actually have the voice pack. You have like a version where each of the main characters is the tank commander, and that's fun. So I use, of course, my waifu Yukari as the commander all the time. Alright, more battle in the urban environment. And tanks and urban environments do not mix. Now, my love of tanks also meant that I researched some of Doctrine. I'm not an expert or anything in it, but I also used to play a lot of Arma 3. Well, Arma 2 and 3, and I was in an organized group. It wasn't like Super Milsim or anything, but they were organized. You'd be put in a group. You had to follow orders for that match and whatnot. And I got a bit of a reputation as being a guy who was really, really good at commanding tanks. And there was two reasons for that. One, I wasn't a dumb fuck who would send tanks into urban environments and get destroyed. But I also knew how all the fire control systems on all of the tanks worked, and I also wrote a guide on it, so people would hop in my tank and be like, oh, I know how to use vanilla tanks. Oh, but we've got modded tanks with different fire control systems? Nobody knows how to use it. Hey, gunner, here are your default controls, here's how it works, go do it. And we'd do well. We had one mission that was really good where we took out, with a T-90, we took out two M1A1 Abrams tanks. And then the enemy team had only a little bit left of anti-tank, and then we just stood outside of their village and took them all out. Because this was a player versus player mission. And after all the enemy's anti-tank was done, it was just our tank versus the enemy team's last like infantry. It wasn't even a squad, it was just a single fire team. So we just shelled the town until we got them all. Everybody got upset after that though, because we fought well and it wasn't fun. There's another good time we had where we had two BMP-3s versus two Bradleys, which really in Arma shouldn't be a contest, and it wasn't a contest because we had better maneuver. We maneuvered better and we outflanked the Bradleys and we took them both out, and then it was just a slaughter after that. Alright, this is, I think, the one with the KV, maybe? Or maybe that's the next one. Do, 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 do. trying this on, or trying out this capture card on something that is a lot less thought intensive than the other game. Why am I rolling over? Holy crap! What is going on with this physics? This is worse than World of Tanks. But there was I just lost my train of thought, as I will be doing a lot tonight. Yeah, it's completely lost. I don't even remember what I was saying before that happened. GG Nori. Now, the niche of cute girls doing military stuff. We've got tanks done, no problem. Yeah, there's girls in Panzer. Oh, it's the KV2. Yeah, KV2 didn't have a balanced turret, so well, you probably wouldn't be able to crank the turret enough to turn it. But as I was saying, cute girls doing military stuff. We've got, of course, tanks and girls in Panzer. You've got ships and anything from, like, what is it, Kantai Collection to Arpeggio of Blue Steel to High Fury. But then if you want cute girls doing like infantry stuff, there's actually the 3 anime about girls playing airsoft. Yeah, there's 3 of them, funny enough. And in each of them, there's one person who uses dual-wielded Tokyo Marui Desert Eagles, which is funny as hell. My A button is sticking a little bit because I've got a Switch Pro controller I'm using, and I custom painted it, so it is a little sticky. There is a way to... Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. I think I have to aim at the target and then hit the... Yes, the Y button. It auto aims. Our treads are hit. Oh, if I hit B a bunch, I repair my treads faster. But the 3 anime about girls who play airsoft is first there's Sabagebu, Survival Game Club, which is a really, really goofy, funny anime. It's a great comedy one. It's not really... It's barely about airsoft, really. But it's a riot. Then there is Aeroharu X Machine Gun, which is a girl destroys the host club and then has to pretend she's a boy and join an airsoft team to repay her debt. So it's Iran High School Host Club, but with airsoft, and it's a great time. And there's a running gag where the girl is trying to tell, instead of like trying to confess her feelings, she's trying to confess that she's actually a girl to the team members, and they play it up the same way, so it's a good time. And then the last one is pretty dear to my heart. It's Stella C3 Boo. And that one actually follows like the journey of somebody starting to play airsoft and then, you know, like progressing in playing airsoft, even to the point where they might cheat, and then growing from that. And it's a great story. I swear whoever made it or whoever wrote it has absolutely gone through all of that. Oh, these are interludes, so we're just gonna go to this one, and then we're actually starting the like university match. Hey, we're playing as K. Oh, so another thing, with my absolutely at this point, I've got like 20 trains of thought all just derailed and mashed into each other. So everything's going to be off the wall and crazy here. But what I was mentioning earlier with Wargaming being a consultant for historical accuracy on this, they weren't a consultant during the TV anime series, but they were for all of the movies. And you can actually see a jump in quality. Like right here in front of K, you saw a thing sticking up, and that's... In the game, it's not actually positioned right. But that is actually part of the commander's gun sight, because the commander has a gun sight in the M4 Sherman, so when they look through their periscope, they can see where the gun is pointed roughly. And then the commander also has a little joystick override that tells you that slews the turret. So the commander can go, hey, there's a thing over here that I see, and they can forcibly slew the turret to the thing that they're looking at if the gunner can't see it. It's actually a really, really useful thing to have. Having only done a little bit of simulation and Arma with it, it is very useful to have that capability to say to the gunner, hey, this is the target right here that I'm looking at. So we're fighting, what, M26? Yeah, Pershings. Bloom! We hit his turret. And I forgot to quick reload. Bloom! Rear hit. And another rear hit. Let's go. This tank really shifts from forward to reverse pretty quick. Although it's a game, so it does that. Tank down. Let's take out the next one. Barely did any damage, so we're hitting him in like the front or side, I guess. The M26 Pershing was made as a medium tank to try to replace the M4 Sherman. It took quite a while to actually get it completed, and as a result, it didn't see too much combat in World War II. This game follows only Der Film. I think it actually exclusively only covers Der Film. Well, it might cover later, but I haven't played it enough to actually get past Der Film, and I'd be surprised if it covers anything past Der Film. We hit him in the treads. And I forgot to speed reload again. Bloom! Big hit in the rear. So the another fun fact with the M26 Pershing is that it started out as what, T-23, I believe it was, and during its development, the U.S. Department of Ordnance, who was developing tanks at the time of World War II, realized, hey, wait a second, we're trying to put this bigger gun in the M4 Sherman, but the turret can't fit it. But we've got this turret for T-23 project that can fit that gun we're working on, and it's got the same diameter turret ring as the M4 Sherman. So what if we just plop this turret onto the Sherman and we fix the turret basket a bit? And they did that, and they found it worked just fine. And then they said, hey, well, screw the T-23 project. Let's just ship the M4 Sherman with this new turret and gun. And that's how the 76mm gun M4 Sherman came about. That's a Chaffee. How did we do scratch damage to the Chaffee? That's a light tank. And scratch damage to that Pershing. Huh. Well, we only have to survive. We're doing pretty poor on hit points, so we might not get so brave with shooting at things. No damage, quick reload. I'm trying to get into the habit of quick reloading now. No damage. I think we're doing frontal hits at this point, so it's not going to do any damage. Oh god, are we at like 0 hit points, or are we at like very, very few? I think we're at like very, very few. And we still gotta survive a minute, so let's bug out. We'll disengage. We will charge in the opposite direction of the enemy. And we see in the top right there's a guy coming around towards us, so we're gonna go to the left here. Oh, he's gonna get shots on us, isn't he? Please don't, please don't, please don't, please don't. There's a saying that is the better part of valor is discretion, and we're using some discretion right now. Thank you. Okay, it's cute. Rendering and then she speaks all in English, of course. There's a fun mod for Civ 5 that I think I'm gonna play at some point. It is a Girls on Panzer Civilization pack, and it adds every school as a civilization in Girls on Panzer, and it's pretty fun. So I'll have to play that at some point. Skip the story. Let me do something with OBS for a second. Okay, looks good. Sorry, I'm actually still doing something with OBS. And I got a notification. Let me check that real quick. Okay, nothing too important. Gotta... Too many window tabbing. Okay. Alright, everything's situated now. So Dr. Sparks, or Sparka, how are you doing? Is that how I say your name correctly? I hope it is. Now, I will say that normally games made based off of like movies have been, in my experience, really awful. This, while not really like great, is kind of like really good as far as movie video games go. So I'll give them credit for that. Alright. Sir Sparka, how are you doing tonight? Oh, this is a level where I just have to... Okay, just survive. CQ, isn't that an amateur radio term? I think it is. I do have an amateur radio license, but I've only talked with like people once on the radio. Low damage. Let's try to go for something with a better side exposed. This guy. Boom. Reload. Smash. Good hit. Up. Hit. Gun up. Hit. Good. Oh. Nope, not up. And fire. Good. Gun up. And hit. I missed that. Hit. We could try, we could do gunner hits. We could do gunner calls like modern, except I don't know what the call is for a modern AP round. There's only gunner sabo tank, 300 meters. Gunner sabo tank, 300 meters. Nope. Get this one. Gun up. Hit. And another hit. I missed the reload. Just keep lobbing shells at this guy. I flobbed that reload. Oh, you're gonna go to bed soon? Thanks for stopping by, though. Hope you sleep well. Alright, let's try to go to the left and see if we can't get a better side shot on this Pershing. No damage. I guess shell angles actually do matter in this game. I don't remember them mattering. We really only have to survive, so if we can't kill them, it doesn't matter. Hit! Hit for minimal damage. Let's try again. A hit for minimal damage. We're like only hitting them in the treads, I guess. Tank commander skill, Panzer IV. I don't know what that actually does. When can we get the High Fury cute girls crewing World War II naval ships game? All we've got is like mods for World of Warships. Well, death by 1,000 cuts this guy, I guess. Pew pew. No damage this time. No damage? Why are we doing no damage to this guy? Oh boy, he sees me. He sees me, or she sees me. All the characters are girls in this, that's right. Oh, flubbed that reload. Again! Oh, they missed and didn't do any damage to me. So that's good. Alright, I guess we could... excuse me. Ouch. We took some damage. No damage. We missed the reload. So we could just like hang out for the remaining 30 seconds, I guess. Ouch. Let's just try to keep moving so we don't die. What did we hit? Oh, we hit about... excuse me, I'm tired. Man. Guess we hit a map boundary. I'll have to pay attention to the mini-map. And we're done. And then we'll get hit by the Karl Jarrett mortar. Spoiler alert, sorry. I found it really fun when they introduced the Karl Jarrett mortar. I only knew of the thing because of a World of Tanks April Fool's Day event that they did. If anybody remembers the really old top-down 2D tank game, World of Tanks made that a thing with SPGs that were the Carl Giraud mortar, and it was it was actually a really fun game mode when they had it. There's a riot. They gave you the top-down mode because the Carl Giraud was an SPG, and the SPGs get a top-down game mode like that. Oh no, the PTSD Pravda one. Oh, we only get to play this as Katusha. You gotta play the Katusha song, though. The old folk song, although that might not be kosher these days with state of the world. We should play a Ukrainian folk song instead. We're in a T-34-85, which is nice. The only other tank game I have right now that I'd probably be willing to play at some point on stream would probably be actually IL-2 Sturmovik, the flight sim game I've been playing a lot recently. It has a tank module, and it, as far as I can tell, is probably one of the best first-person tank sims that I've played. There are a couple things that I wish they would make a little bit more realistic, because of course there are Soviet service M4 Shermans in the game, because IL-2 Sturmovik is primarily Eastern Front Germany versus the Soviets. We gotta use our tank drifting, I gotta remember that, we have that. But yeah, it's primarily Soviets versus Germans, so the tank module got primarily Soviet and German tanks first. And they did get the Lend-Lease M4 Sherman, but one thing I would like to see on it, not that it would really be of any use to the majority of encounters in the game, is the M4 Sherman's indirect fire equipment. Because something that few people know is that the M4 Sherman actually, just about every tank came equipped with indirect fire gun laying equipment. That was an azimuth indicator to precisely let you know where you're aiming, so when you get told where you need to fire, what azimuth you need to fire at, you can lay the gun for that very precisely. And then a gunner's quadrant that would mount onto the gun, so you could precisely have your gun's elevation to fire for artillery as well. And in the US service, M4 Shermans would get, when not in use for something, they would end up on the artillery radio net, and if ammo permitted, they would assist in artillery fire missions because they had the equipment to fire indirect fire, and their guns had enough barrel life to manage it, at least with the 75mm gun and 105mm gun M4 Shermans. Take a pot shot at some of these guys. So IL-2 doesn't have the equipment mounted. It would be neat to see that. I think they've also got, was it the ISU or SU-152 that should have indirect fire equipment but also doesn't, and it would be really neat to just see those, just because it'd be fun to learn how to use that equipment in the game. It might come in very niche importance. There might be some balance issues though, because at least in multiplayer servers, if you can just artillery strike people's airfields, that would be really bad. Oh god, am I stuck? I hope I'm not stuck. I need an unditioning log. Okay, here we go. Drift! Tankio drift! Now, drifting in Girls and Panzer is something that everybody says is pretty unrealistic. But, from as far as I understand, my brother was a tanker in the US Army, so he would know as well because he drove tanks. It is actually very easy to drift a tank. They are very heavy, and despite what people think about tank tracks being really grippy, tank tracks aren't exactly super grippy compared to wheels. There's the whole physics equation argument of surface area does not factor into force of friction. That is true on hard surfaces, but then on soft surfaces, surface area can matter. So depending on the surface you're on, your tank treads might help you grip more, they might not. So like if you're driving around on hard pavement, your tank treads don't really provide any extra grip, and if you turn too hard, you'll start to slip. And of course gravel is also going to do that, because gravel is going to really effectively be less traction for you. Oh no, Clara! No! Sacrificing herself. Giving up her, not her life, because people don't die in this game. People don't die in Senshido. Nobody gets injured, even though they poke their heads out and you know, people shoot bullets at them. They're just really good at dodging. Katusha. Ah, the Karl Jurat. Panzer IV!
この戦いで私たちはパンター2両 IS-2 T34 KV-2 を失ってしまいました。は
あ。So something else I really love with this is first off, the Finnish school only has one tank, which is funny, and they make fun of the BT suspension. If you ever watch the Chieftain's videos, he has a video on this BT tank, and he takes credit for this whole sequence of it driving with the steering wheel, because he showed off where the steering wheel is in the tank, and it's pretty funny. But I also loved a lot of the jokes on Reddit that came out. Oh, we just took a hit. But I loved a lot of the jokes about the Finnish school stealing Soviet tanks, stealing tanks from Pravda, because of what happened during the Winter War, where the Finnish would steal or would capture Russian tanks and press them into service. So it was pretty funny. Also along the line of even just, oh, this guy's not down yet. Let's take him out. He's down. And they're gonna catapult Anchovy. You know, I love how Girls on Panzer just doesn't it just doesn't take itself seriously. It's almost always goofy, but honestly the tank combat, if you've played Sims and know like what the tanks can actually do in the days, it's not terribly unreasonable if you just say, oh yeah, everything is played at like 1.5 to 2 times speed, because you can't. If you're in a moving tank, you can't hit anything, and if you're in a stationary tank, you can't hit a moving tank even. It's not like modern tanks where you've got fire control systems where you just point at the target, you press a button to laser range find it, and then you hit the fire button and it's a dead hit like every single time. No, you had to do all of your leading by either calculations like the German tanks did, or by being really familiar with the guns like most other tanks had. Of course, Anchovy, or Yeah, anchovy always wants more pasta.
飛べー会長お願いします
Fly the Panzer 38T that got turned into a Hetzer, even though doing that as a kit would not work very well at all.
継続試合終了
Because the Panzer 38T and the Hetzer have a different width between the tracks, so you'd have to cut the hull and like expand it. So it really doesn't work that well. Got Crew Techo Kondo. I don't know who that is. There's a lot of secondary characters that I don't know in this this series.
パンツァーフォーすごい
Amusement Park.
本当に戦車が
Tanks can fly. You haven't seen the airborne BMDs, have you?
我ながら見事なもん
Or the M113?
縁の下のアンチは
Play. Oh, I should have played as Maho. Maho Shoujo Madoka Magica, right? Tiger 212. Is 212 the one that's still
それ
around?
では試合を始めます
Or was it 121?
4
Or
秒しかいないわね
no, wait, maybe it was 313. I can't remember.
どうする
I don't really keep too much track of the Tigers. I think the Tiger's a neat tank, but there were only like 1,300 of them made. Whereas in like World War II, Germany made somewhere around 45,000 other armored fighting vehicles. The Tiger is really not a huge amount of German tank production in World War II.
装填遅いわよ
Well, I reloaded at the wrong time.
装填完了装填どうカチューシャに
But as far as the Tiger memes go, there's always if you follow like Der Scheisser or R Tank Porn or Non-Creditable Defense, any of those subreddits, people will have memes about how the Tiger breaks down every 5 seconds, and I think the Tiger can be forgiven because it wasn't supposed to be a frontline tank. It was supposed to be a very specific use tank, but it is important to remember the context of any use of any tank. It's like an M4 Sherman or a Panzer IV or a T-34. Those were all frontline tanks. They were used in like every engagement that tanks were used in, whereas the Tiger was only supposed to be used in engagements where you were like on the offensive, so you'd pick your battles and you could use it when you wanted, and you could opt to change your offensives for when you had enough tanks available, so uptime didn't matter because you just reschedule your operation around when your tanks are up. Oh, we're getting a new tank. We're getting a Tiger 2, I guess. A big lumbering beast that can get made fun of. And I will not say anything in its defense because it's not really a good idea at all. Oh wow, we've caught up with where I was when I was playing this by myself.
南西門での戦いは煙幕の中でしたが皆さん落ち着いて対応していました
I am quickly checking some notifications, so bear with me for a second. Okay, all good. We're gonna play as Chihatan. I don't know what it is about the Type 95 I think it is the tank they use. It just has an aesthetic that I like. I think it's mainly the way the gun and the turret are. Not that tank, not that tank, not that tank, not that tank. Oh, not that tank either. Or, no, I'm thinking of the one that Orai has. Enemy tanks, let's go. Oh, we're the ducks. Where am I supposed to go? Aren't we supposed to be like hiding in water? Oh god! I messed up! No! Well, I spoiled our ambush. Wow, this thing does a lot of damage compared to the Panzer IV. I also feel like the Panzer IV thing was a pun on part of the creators of Girls of Panzer, because Japanese people seem to really love their puns, and I'm a connoisseur of puns, so I appreciate a very well-made pun. Puns are obviously the highest form of comedy, because the intent of comedy is to make your friends groan. So the more your friends groan when you make a joke, the better the comedy is, right? I once had the opportunity of making an entire classroom of engineering undergraduate students groan at a pun I made, and that was like the peak of my life. I will never exceed that pun. Also, excuse my model freaking out as I try to take a drink from my drink. Yeah, these are all really, really short kind of matches. I think that's probably my biggest strike against this game. It would be nice if you could play it for a little longer in a single match or a single, like, mission. The Saunders C-17 Galaxy. Was it C-17 Globemaster? I don't really know tons about modern support aircraft. As for me, I am a what one would call a gunji otaku, military otaku. But my areas of, I hesitate to say expertise because I don't really consider myself an expert on most things, since, you know, I'm not actually an expert on it, but the areas that I specialize in are generally specifically World War II, the M4 Sherman, primarily, because I can't really say I know a ton about anything else but the M4 Sherman. I've read Steven Zaloga's book on it. I've read through Hunnicutt's book on it, and I've spent countless other hours looking it up stuff related to the M4 Sherman. Then I kind of, from there, jumped to World War II aircraft because I have a big interest in playing flight sims like IL-2, and it's a lot of fun. I find World War II flight sims a lot more interesting compared to modern flight sims, because in a jet flight sim, and I've played one-to-one flight sims, specifically Falcon BMS, which is an F-16 Falcon one-to-one flight sim. So anything you have to do to fly the F-16, you have to do in that flight sim. The big quick word speak rant. Gotta take a breath. But anything you do in that, you have to do in the sim. But a jet aircraft, modern jet aircraft like the F-16, is much easier to handle than a World War II propeller aircraft, primarily because the F-16, you can pull on the stick, you can do whatever wild maneuvers you want, and it's not going to stall out, it's not going to enter a spin or anything. It's basically impossible to do any of that. You're more likely to damage the aircraft's control stick than you are to do any of that. But in World War II aircraft, you have to be very gentle with the controls. You have to be careful with them, and like you can't suddenly pull the stick back really hard or you'll stall. You have to start pulling gradually, and it takes a lot of work to keep the aircraft in the air while doing dogfighting, and I find that really interesting. It's really cool. Modern aircraft are a lot more of having to manage all of your other systems. So like firing a missile is quite a bit more complicated than one would think, especially something like the AGM, what is it, AGM 80, was it 88 the harm, or but the Hellfire missiles and other anti-tank air-to-ground missiles are a bit more involved to fire than most games show you. It's like in, say, Arma 3, if you want to fire a missile, you just hit your lock target button until you find the target you want, and then you press the fire button, and it's away and it hits. In like Falcon VMS, you have to like actually have set up the missile. You have to bore sight it to your aircraft. You have to know about the field of view of the missile, and you have to find the target and actually lock onto it. It's a lot more complicated, and you only have so much on time of the missile's seeker because the missile doesn't take power from the aircraft. It's got its own onboard battery that you have to work with. So there's a lot of complication with it, and it's pretty interesting. One of these days I want to go back and play more Falcon BMS because I basically learned, well, the basics, and then got too busy with other stuff because I was learning it while I was in university. I didn't really have time to continue playing it. I also didn't have the flight sim setup I have now. At the time I was playing with just a Logitech Extreme 3D Pro joystick, and then I had an Xbox 360 controller as additional buttons for me. But now I've got a nice Sci-Tech X52 Pro, as well as a pair of MFG Crosswinds pedals that I could use to control everything. This song is totally just the Intego marching on and on. I can't unhear it after I first thought of that, so you now have to not unhear it ever. They all go marching down. It's actually probably another song that has like original lyrics or something. Just like how one of the themes for Saunders is what most people think of as the U.S. Army theme, but it's actually the U.S. Field Artillery March. And the modern lyrics are a bit different from the original lyrics. On to the next one. Surrounded by the All-Stars University team. The breakthrough was due to the Ferris wheel. Well, I think that Ferris wheel is rather ferrific, if you get my chemistry pun. I am going to, on that note, take a minute and get another drink. I will be right back. All right, I'm back, and I've got more bourbon. So we will keep going. We'll keep rolling.
えへんえへん
Ahem.
なんだったんだよあれ。
何って言われても見ての通りの観
What
覧
is
車です
that?
けど
Well, can't you see? It's a Ferris wheel. Yeah, like I said, it's pretty ferrific. Sorry about my chair noises. I'm ADHD, so I have trouble sitting still, so my chair squeaks. And even though I have a degree in mechanical engineering, I cannot track down the goddamn source of its squeakiness.
それは見ればわかるけど
Why is it rolling around? Well, because obviously we shot the bearings out of it.
これもあなたたちの作戦だったの？
あ、いえこれはこのさきが観覧車って言ってくれて
Yes, he totally suggested we shoot down this Ferris wheel, and we totally didn't just think of it on our own and pin it on her.
なるほどね。
I mean, what?
なかなか大胆なこと。ありがとうございます。確かにあの観覧車殿のおかげで我々は
Sir
九死に
Ferris
一生を
wheel,
得ました。
he's knighted? I didn't realize that. That's kind of rude that we shot his bearings out if he's knighted.
ちょっと待って。確かに九死に一生を得たかもしれんが、我々だって危なかったぞ。
Yeah, I mean, of course you were in danger.
みんな大丈夫だと
You're sitting in metal death traps, shooting chunks of metal at each other at absurd velocities. Of course you're in danger. You're in danger every time you do anything in these things.
そもそもどうしてあんな大きな観覧車をお転がしになろうと思ったんでございますか
I have proceeded to remember a couple thoughts that I started and then proceeded to fail to... Shit, I lost one. But the other thought I was thinking of is the whole tanks drifting. Tanks do drift. If you're on soft ground, like let's say gravel or dirt, it happens all the time. So it's not too unrealistic. And then the other case is that you can actually find a lot of videos, well, maybe not a lot, but a fair number of videos online of typically Soviet surplus tanks drifting on hard pavement. And the reasoning is, specifically hard wet pavement, and the reasoning is that being wet reduces the coefficient of friction enough that you can actually slide your tank around on the pavement and it's not a problem. The other reasoning, excuse me, hiccup. The other reasoning is Soviet tanks often did not use rubber pads on the treads. They just used steel tracks, and steel on asphalt has a lower coefficient of friction compared to rubber on asphalt. So you can drift those. Otherwise, every tank can drift, but like the game, not the game, like the TV series mentions in the last episode, drifting with your tracks results in them being thrown. And that's typically what happens if you try to drift on dry pavement with steel tracks, or in really like any condition with rubber tracks, any condition aside from ice. You can find videos of US M1A1 Abrams tanks drifting in South Korea during a winter exercise. That's pretty common, because on ice, all things are just going to slide around like that. So, yeah, you can drift tanks. It typically results in you losing your tracks, because tracks are really not as durable as most people think. They're kind of in a weird situation where it's pretty easy to throw a track, but it's also pretty difficult to force a tank to throw a track. The Chieftain has a great video, was it video, or actually it's video and an article. He's mentioned multiple times the anti-tank rock, which I love is a thing, where the US in the interwar period between World War I and World War II was trying to figure out how the heck we deal with tanks, because there were like no anti-tank methods, and they said, well, let's shove things into the tracks, and it didn't work. So they said, let's take this big rock and let's shove it into the tracks and see what happens, and it failed to throw the track. And so they took a pic, because they did it in a scientific method, They took a picture of the rock, and so there's officially a declassified photo of an anti-tank rock in the U.S. U.S. like military, or well, U.S. National Archives rather is the more accurate way of saying that. So it's beautiful. Random tangent over that was like 90% unrelated to what I originally was trying to talk about. But you know, let's go. Let's not let staying on track get in the way of a good time, right? As I proceed to try to mess with OBS and then absolutely fail at everything. Excuse me. Where's my phone? I gotta check something. Okay. It is nice playing with this capture card for a couple reasons, because previously when playing with my Switch, I would have to run an aux cord from the Switch to my speakers, and the Switch dock is really not a electronically well-made thing. Like it does its job, but it's got a lot of electromagnetic interference, so it's really noisy. So unless you're well, at least mine is. I know other people who have perfectly good Switches, and you know that's great for them. But you know, mine isn't, and I'm not gonna buy docks until I get one that's good. But from what I know of amateur radio, if I wanted to deal with it, I would have to get I'd have to get a ferrite bead to stick onto the audio cord, and I don't really want to deal with that because a audio aux cable is just an analog signal, so it is very susceptible to EMI, electromagnetic interference. Whereas with the capture card, I'm plugging an HDMI in. So HDMI comes out of the dock into the capture card, and then I take an aux cord from the capture card to my computer. So it puts a little bit more distance between any point on the aux cord and the dock, which helps reduce interference, but I still do hear interference. Just having the capture card plugged in at all means that I get a little bit of a buzzing in my headphones or my speakers when I try to play audio. Something I'll have to investigate further. If I unplug the USB, it goes away. So I've been thinking about switching up where my USB devices are plugged in to try to get it on a different set of USB ports from my headphones. Though I'm not entirely convinced that will help. Annihilation battle. Destroy all opposing team's tanks. Okay, so I guess I don't have to run in this. I actually have to shoot things. Master Armon! That reminds me of playing IL-2 because I've got my Master Arm on my joystick, which actually just switches my joystick modes. Since I've got an X52 Pro, it has a little dial that can switch between 3 modes. So I've got 3 modes set up as one is safe, where none of my fire buttons do anything. Another is air-to-ground mode, as I like to call it, where it adds a... the only fire options I have is fire all guns, fire rockets, and fire bombs. And then the next one I have is air-to-air mode, which it gives me swaps the bomb and rocket keys to regular fire mode keys. So I have on my joystick effectively a Master Arm, because if I am in safe I can't really do anything, so I have to swap that over. It kind of adds to the fun, honestly, to when I quote-unquote fence in, which is getting ready for combat, to arm my guns. Sorry for another rambling side tangent, as I can't remember anything that I'm doing. How does the gun on this do? I can hit him from the front, nice. Let's try to go around to the back. Let's lock onto them. And I messed up that quick reload. Boom. We did no damage. Ouch! Oh, they didn't hit us. He's down. Okay. Our allies are actually doing good work. They are doing more work than the Halo 1 Marines in the first level. Quick reload. Nice. And let's try to hit him from behind. Does turret armor matter? Yes, it does. Nice. Otaku team won. The thick Otaku swirly glasses, of course. Okay, I'm gonna take another real quick hold. I didn't make my drink quite right. I'm gonna fix that real quick. Alright, I'm back. So, the drink I made is an old-fashioned. Actually, I'm on the second one tonight. And when I went to make it, I actually forgot the simple syrup. So it was a bit stronger than I wanted, so I went back and quickly added more. The maze of Bocage. So interesting with the Bocage. Bocage is the hedgerows that are found in, like, say, Normandy, right after the invasion of, or right after the Normandy landings. They're huge hedgerows, so you'll get like a road, and then on either side there will be massive amounts of hedgerows. And generally people think of these as being like, oh, you know, it's just plants, it's just a bush, you could push through it, but it really is much tougher than that. And the US ran into a lot of trouble with that, because if you're fighting a defensive war, or a defensive fight, and you've got Bocage everywhere, it really pushes the combat distances down. So everything is done within like 100-ish meters in the Bocage area of Normandy. And if you have to travel along the area of the roads, it makes you very susceptible to ambush, because the enemy knows where you're going to be, and you don't have any more room to maneuver. So the US was really interested in trying to figure out how to get around the Bocage. I have to destroy 3 enemy tanks in this maze, I guess. But yeah, the US was really interested in trying to get around the Bocage, and they came up with various methods of trying to do so. And one of the methods was fitting metal cutters on the bottoms of the tanks. they had a lot of trouble with it because some of the modifications fitted to tanks were obvious in their nature,
様子は出て
and enemy forces would... sorry, I'm trying to orient myself with the map, and I can't do a thing and speak at the same time.
なぜ
But the enemy forces would notice where... or would notice the tanks with modifications, and they would specifically target them and take them out. And that's actually something that we see in just about any kind of sniper-ish warfare, any kind where you're gonna get the first shot, where you have the option of taking the first shot and you get to pick your target for the first shot. Typically, the thing that is different gets shot first, either either by a well-trained enemy who's trying to take them out first and is looking for, say, something important. Something important's usually different, so they pick something different. But even without that kind of a knowledge for picking your target, if you've got 4 guys that look the same and a 5th guy that looks different, you typically just pick the guy that looks different. It's just how it goes. We learned that a lot in when playing armor missions too. You get the guy who's standing up with binoculars out, and he's an obvious target, of course. He must be somebody important, but sometimes he might have just been that poor fool who pulled out his binoculars in our armor group. And this is the same reason why you see on the Firefly tanks, the Sherman Firefly with the 17 or the British 17-pounder gun, you'll see that after a certain distance from the turret, the barrel has some camouflage on it. That's done to try to hide the barrel's length,
舐めてたつもりはなかったんだけど
because the German tanks were either would or were feared to shoot tanks that had longer barrels because they were more deadly and whatnot. But man, tank development of World War II is really interesting because generally the World War II tanks had very, very similar capabilities, like the M4 Sherman, the T-34, and the Panzer IV all typically had very comparable guns and armor at any given time.
行くぞ
And I think that tends to get really lost in the discussion of the Tiger, because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, the Tiger's so good. Tiger's awesome." And the Tiger's a neat tank. It's got a really good gun,
敵車両発見
and its armor
倒
is,
す
well, the frontal armor is about the same as the M4 Sherman against even 88mm shells, really, even up to like 128mm shells.
訓練であります
You can find that in World War II ballistics armor and gunnery. They go into that. The sloping makes it that good,
アフリカ
but again, only about 1,300 Tigers were made,
停止しろ超低機体を狙って
whereas like 45,000 other armored vehicles were made in the German side, and a lot more of those were Panzer IVs.
ないぞ撃て
And so
外れた
the medium tanks really were what fought the war, and they're what matters. And the M4 kind of, well, everybody likes to say like, oh, the Panther was the first main battle tank. Well, what's a main battle tank? Frontal armor is all or nothing, and then all or nothing armor setup, where you have armor to handle like everything, or you only have armor to handle small arms, which is what the Panther had, but also is what the M4 had, because the M4 had effectively like 120 something millimeters of frontal armor against 88mm shells, and then side armor was like 50 millimeters. It was like nothing.
さすが
And the Panther was very similar. And then people go, oh, all or nothing armor, and then the gun, and it's like the T-34 and the M4 and everything had it. So really, I think the main battle tank was just a derivative of the medium tank, because that's what medium tanks were: frontal armor above, any other armor, and then a decent gun. And people will say, oh, well, the Sherman's gun wasn't great. Well, the Sherman's gun was always on par with the medium tanks of the other countries at the time. Ah, it's a T-28/95 because it at one point was a heavy tank, and then at another point was a tank destroyer, so it got different designations. I like how it's generally considered a heavy tank, and it's like US heavy tank has no turret. US tank destroyer has turret. German heavy tank has turret. German tank destroyer has no turret. It's the opposite of what the US did. It's just kind of funny. For anybody who doesn't know tanks, T-28 was designed to be it was designed to fight primarily fortifications in the Pacific theater of operations, very heavy bunkers and pillboxes and whatnot. And then it was also when it was considered like not really being useful for that, or no, it was considered being useful for taking out the Maginot Line, because at the time it was developed, the Maginot Line was in the hands of the German forces, who were commandeering it for their own uses to defend against the US and other allied troops. And so they found that they came up with a tank with a really big gun and said, hey, we're going to use this. Well, Maginot Line ended up not really being fielded in time for that. And the US was like, hey, we can just take our 155mm artillery guns and we can just point the gun down and direct fire at things and we'll destroy things. And there's a quote from like a German commander where it's something along the lines of, when the Americans decide to direct fire artillery your fortifications, it's time to just give up. And I find that to be a flippin' hilarious quote. It's just great. It's hilarious because that's what happened. It's like the US M12 artillery piece, they just said, let's take the gun, and instead of putting it like 45 degrees, let's just point it straight down because it can do that and direct fire. And people often discredit how powerful artillery is when coming up against like fortifications and tanks, but oh my god, is artillery powerful.
Caution. Caution.
Oh, we just got a follow. Karuzu, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thanks for the follow. We've got that master caution. Let me punch that real quick and reset that master caution light, even though we're not flying any aircraft at the moment. M1A1 Sherman. Good English. They're giving me Sherman callouts. Nice. They got the Firefly. What is my goal here? I can't speak. Destroy all opposing teams' tanks. We're playing as a Pershing. Nice. Pershing is a fine tank. If I remember correctly, its main issues were just bridging requirements, I think. I don't really know as much about the Pershing as I know about other... well, I definitely don't know as much about the Pershing as I know about the M4. No enemy tanks. Let's try... Oh, here they are. Let's try to take out the Matilda. I really do like the aesthetics of the Matilda. It's a very interesting looking tank. Oh, it's down. Take out the Hetzer. Hetzer's gonna Hetz, so let's take him out. I flubbed the reload. Hey, get out of my shot. Come on, man. I'm trying to hit the enemy. I think I hit a friendly. Alright, Hetzer's down. Let's type through Chainu's down. I think it's a Chainu. Not entirely sure on that. I have a checkpoint to go to. Let's turn. Can the Pershing do a I don't know if this game actually does 0-point turns accurately. For context, a 0-point turn is when a tank just takes, like, say, the right track and it goes forward, and the left track and it goes reverse. So it can turn literally in spot. That was not particularly common in World War II tanks. It takes actually a rather complicated set of gearing to do that. You need what's called a dual differential to do that, because you need to be able to reverse the power transmission to one of the treads. Whereas normally you would you'd have a standard differential, and you'd normally have a standard differential. Oh no, I want to go to a different way. You'd have a standard differential, and the way a differential works is if you apply a braking torque to one of the outputs of the differential, it won't go, and all the power will go to the other side. So you would just apply braking to one tread, and then the other tread would get all of your power. Although really you would have some power loss from that, just because of mechanical mechanisms and how they work. And then when you eventually get to like the more modern gearing, you can get a dual differential, and you can have a 0-point turn. Although 0-point turns can only work when you are completely stopped, because being in a forward gear doesn't work for that. Coming too fast. At least the tanks drive like tanks in this game. I do keep forgetting that I can drift my tanks in this, so I'll have to try to remember that. And if I remember correctly, also, U.S. tanks in World War II tended to use steel track, and then you can typically tell if a picture of a U.S. tank was taken during World War II or post-war, based off the track it's using, because rubber track was generally used post-war for U.S. tanks, because people tend to not remember it, or people tend to not know about it or remember it. But during World War II, the U.S. did have shortages of things, and they did ration a number of resources. One of those being rubber. Because rubber is used in a lot of things. You gotta use it for all of your vehicle tires, and the U.S. had a lot of vehicles in World War II. Lots of trucks to ship everything around. And for a bit of context with that is, like, we think about modern military where you have a tank you want to fill up, oh, we got enemies behind us, but you have a tank that you want to fill up, like a tank, the vehicle, not the structure or the fluid holding device, but you want to fill up a tank with fuel. They have pretty big gas tanks. They're, I don't remember how big the M4 Sherman's is offhand, but it's in excess of, let's say, 50 gallons, because I know it's well above that. So you want to refuel your tank. How are you going to do it? Well, you didn't have like the MTVRs with a big fuel tank stuck on the back. So usually the fuel was shipped by like a tanker ship overseas, and then it was loaded into jerry cans. And then you had to fill your tank with 20-liter jerry cans until you got your 50-plus gallons of fuel loaded. And honestly, I think it was like M4 Shermans had 100-gallon fuel tanks, something really big. So it would take you quite a while to load it with even jerry cans. Alright, let's lock onto this target. Shoot them from the side. Let's try to turn around. There we go, we got the last tank. Perfect.
やってくれるわね。正直手強かったかも。将来言う？お姉ちゃん、こっち。
分かった。
Beating this university team.
試合終了。
Alright, game done. I am having a great time. I hope anybody lurking here, because no one's talking in chat right now, but I hope everybody lurking is having a good time as well. I'm just nerding out about tanks. I'm having some good drinks, and we got some fun, cute anime girls and tanks fighting things, and it's just a good time all around. And I'm gonna take another second to dick around with stuff on my computer. It is very convenient playing with the capture card. I went into this before and I only talked about audio devices because my train of thought got derailed after like 1 minute because I am really bad at anything and I have had drinks, so that makes it even worse. But it's very convenient with the capture card because not only the audio device stuff, but also I don't have to alt tab my game to do like management stuff. Like if I want to check up on my stream on Twitch, I don't have to alt tab my game to do any of that, and it's really nice. So I think in the future I'll probably be playing more Switch games because it's really easy to handle everything with this. I just go from my Pro controller to my mouse and I'm handling everything. It's great. I think the next game I'd probably want to play is Daemon X Machina. Daemon X Machina I really love. I know people are I've been told by people it's a lot similar to the old Armored Combat games. I've never played those because they've never been out on systems I have. I grew up with Xboxes, not PlayStations. But Daemon X Machina is a really fast-paced mecha combat game, and I generally don't really like shooter games with controllers, but because of the gyro controllers and the lock-on system of Daemon X Machina, it's a very, very fun game, and I think it's a very well-made game in terms of game mechanics. I will gripe about how I can't use the totally not beam saber femto sword to fight everything because I want to be a Gundam and I want to fight things with my beam saber, of course. And using the femto sword means you have to give up all of your like femto advantages. And femto is just like MacGuffin resource, kind of like Minovsky particles. And if you have enough, you need the femto to be able to. If you don't use the femto saber, you can use it instead to deploy a double, which, quite frankly, doubles your DPS. So you gotta be really doing some good damage with that femto saber to warrant getting rid of it, or you gotta be really using or doing some good damage with that femto saber to warrant not using your double ability. Okay, I think we're just gonna chip away at. Man, that tiger did good damage to this thing. It's what, a chieftain, right? Or no, a centurion. Oh god, we hit a thing and we stopped. Okay, good, the tiger took care of it. We were like so about to die right there. A blank. Oh no. Fun fact with blanks. Blanks are really interesting. So a blank is a cartridge that is filled with powder, but there's no projectile. So you don't like kill things when you shoot them. They're used a lot in Hollywood, and they're also used in military training exercise with like the military mile system. I don't remember what that stands for. It's like MILES. I don't remember the acronym stands for. They're very useful for a variety of applications. Blanks also typically cost a lot more than regular ammo, probably just because of economy of scale, even though you don't have a projectile, which costs usually about 10 cents for the physical projectile itself, at least if you're buying consumer parts. Blanks often don't have the ability to cycle actions in firearms, and while tank guns aren't technically semi-automatic, they are kind of like a quasi between bolt action and semi-automatic. They are automatic in the sense that they operate themselves, so they recock their spring, their firing pin spring, as much as that really matters in most of these vehicles, because that's not really that big of a spring compared to the rest of the mechanisms. But they also do eject their shells on their own most of the time. There's very few vehicles that don't do that. And so they're not semi-automatic because they're not auto-loading, but they're kind of quasi-semi-automatic because they eject their shells, and then you just have to load the next shell, and they're good to go. But blanks tend to have problems operating these mechanisms because they don't put out the same force. Because when you fire a projectile, like a firearm does, firearm in small scale or cannon size, you have two things to deal with. You have Newton's law, which is just you throw a thing hard this way, it has to have a reaction the opposite way, and that's part of what operates the gun. And then another part of the recoil is that you have Newton's law not from the projectile, but from the expanding gases that are also coming out, which is why muzzle brakes work. So if you've only got the expanding gases to operate things, it doesn't always work, which is why blank firing adapters are often a thing. Blank firing adapters are also a thing often to prevent you from accidentally firing a real round and killing somebody, which is very good. That's why most militaries use a fairly hefty blank firing adapter. But yeah, so fires a blank, it's just a powder and usually like a wad or something to contain the powder in the shell, and you just send a bunch of gases out of your cannon in this case, and it sends the tank flying forward. Although I have not done the mathematics for how much a 88 centimeter or 8.8 centimeter blank would send a Panzer IV flying. Frankly, my interest in ballistics of guns drops off beyond about 7.62 millimeters, or rather, actually, beyond 12.7 millimeters, because 50 cals are still pretty cool. Though primarily I dabble in 6.5 centimeters because that is the boutique cartridge for precision shooters these days. At least if you're not going to go out to like 300 Winchester Magnum ranges. We got a whole bunch of rewards. We got a Pershing, we got Miho as a tank commander, Hana, Mako, Azumi Sayori. Oh, we got the main cast as tank commanders. That's neat. We will have to play with Yukari as our tank commander because Yukari is my waifu. My waifu. Victory, woo! My A button. I think this is another thought I failed to mention, but I've got a custom painted and custom decaled Pro controller. I spray painted the part. I took it apart, spray painted the parts, and then I also, on top of that, applied some vinyl decals to it because it's orange with white accents, and I didn't want to paint the orange accents on. Or sorry, I didn't want to paint the white accents on. But one of the decals is around my A button, so my A button can kind of stick a little bit. And I doubt you can hear it, but sometimes it presses down and then it won't come back up for like probably a sixth or an eighth of a second. Exceptionally competent tank commander based off of the movements of the Centurion. Certainly, if Arma's taught me anything, the quality of the tank commander matters a lot, and a lot of it is hard to tell unless you've played in first-person mode. But if you play, like I honestly, I think playing any kind of tank simulator is a great experience for trying to figure out, the downsides of tanks, and don't switch into like the third person, because I know Arma has like a third person, but if you're in first person as the driver, you've got a view from like the left side of the bumper to the right side of the bumper on the tank. Not that tanks really have a bumper, but like the left fender to the right fender, if you really call the things on tanks fenders, but you know what I mean. So you've got a view of the front of the tank, and that's it. You don't really have any peripheral vision or anything. You've got a tight field of view, enough to get the tank to where somebody says you need to go. If you're the loader, you've got an even smaller field of view. It's really tiny. It's just your sight. Although you do have a unity sight in every US tank since World War II. Even the M4 Sherman has a unity sight that's a 1x magnification optic. That's why it's unity. It's 1/1. So that provides a good field of view, but even that is pretty restrictive, so you can't see very well. You don't have the 270-degree field of view that a guy standing on the ground has, with good peripheral vision and all that. The commander then has another field of view. If you're talking like a US World War II M4 Sherman, the commander has about as much field of view as the gunner's unity sight. However, he can swivel it anywhere if you're talking about his periscope. If you're talking about the commander's vision cupola, he's got a vision all around, of course, through a bunch of different slits that he can look through. And so the commander really keeps everything together, because you're commanding the whole thing. You're operating the whole tank indirectly. You're telling the gunner, hey, you got to look over here, you got to shoot this thing, and get your gun laid on target. You have to spot for the gunner. You have to tell the driver where he's going to go, and then on top of that, you also have to tell the assistant driver, the guy who's manning the hull machine gun, what to do. So you could definitely tell how good a commander is based off how their tank moves. Oh, so she's totally a tank lolly. So she's just so good at tanking that she's a lolly, and yeah, that. The volleyball team. Return my tank cap. Oh, her tanker helmet. Fun fact, tanker helmets are important. US issued football helmets to tankers, modified football helmets to tankers, and it severely dropped the rates of deaths in tanks. Remember to wear your helmets, kids. It's important. There's also a tradition in modern day US tanks that the tank commander, when qualifying, gets his beret destroyed, because tankers wear berets in the US military service for not in combat things. I don't know if it's technically the dress uniform. I don't know that offhand. I didn't serve. My brother served, so I know some of this stuff. But he had a fun story where most of the time you'd tape the tank commander's beret to the end of the gun barrel while doing the qualifications, so when you fire the main gun, it gets destroyed. But they had one commander, I think he was a lieutenant, who was going through qualification, and he didn't want to get his beret destroyed. But somebody managed to, at the last minute, when they were doing their qualification, he grabbed the beret from the tank commander, threw it in the gun breech, and then the loader threw the round home and closed the breech, so he couldn't get the beret out, and they fired it. It's a great, hilarious story. He also has a great story of the typical LT, fresh out of LT school, who kept having his tank shut off in the middle of training because he kept resting his rifle up against the main fuel cutoff valve, and it would just trigger it. And he, oh, there goes my main fuel cutoff. We can't run our tank right now. We gotta let me move my rifle and fix that. He has other stories that I probably can't talk about without risking doxing myself, but anybody who serves in the military comes out with some fun stories, but also a lot of stories of why you should probably never enter the military unless you really need to for some reason or really want to for some reason. This is why I stick to simulations and fun games and whatnot, because I'd like to, well, I was about to say I'd like to not end up with tinnitus, but I already have tinnitus because of my hobbies. But at least my tinnitus is not as bad as somebody who was a tanker. I also probably won't end up with like back issues like my brother does. Rules were made to be broken in front of the Pershing. Yes, the triplets who are so about rules. I didn't realize that their hairs are their hairs are long, well, kind of like medium to short, medium to short. I didn't really realize that. I thought in the movie they all had hair of the same length. Panzerfahren. Oh, that's what the game's translating Senshado to. You like dried sweet potato? Dried sweet potato. That's an interesting. I wonder how that would taste. Well, I guess I know how that would taste, but I wonder how that would be to eat. It seems a little weird. I think the texture would be a little strange at first. Too stiff, of course. The girl with a totally not a monocle is too stiff. Oh, I was really hoping that Cut was just going to start playing Intermission. God, I also love that pun because it's supposed to be like intermission, but it's intermission. Japan and puns in other languages, it's so strong. Pun game is strong. American philosopher Williams James. What was that? How do I guess I don't get a I guess I don't get a backlog. Next time I won't lose to you, Type 89. Yeah, the phenomenal Hoa Type 89 assault rifle. Oh no, wait, they're talking about the medium tank, aren't they? I have a Tokyo Marui Type 89 airsoft rifle, and it's a very nice rifle. I love it. It took me like 6 months to get it imported. It was a pain, but it was worth it. It's a laser, even though it shoots so slow. Imagine being able to go to a college and drive tanks and like get a scholarship for that. That would be like my dream, even though I've already gone to college. I've had coworkers ask me like, "Oh, would you think about going back to college and getting your master's degree?" And I was just like, "Ha, nope, never, not gonna happen. Fuck that. I'm not going back to school." But if I could go back and then be in the tankery club, absolutely, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Great learning, hearing such useful comments. I'll need to summarize it after returning. Okay, Tomboy girl who operates the Sherman Firefly. I can't speak ever. Oh, Lisa Sherman 76. Lisa's the girl on the left, right? It's anchovy.
またの機会にしま。
姉さん、おお、はい。
Skip, skip, skip. Alright, Pravda,
それなりに楽しいイベントだったわよ、
Katusha,
ミホじゃ。
Katoa.
これでまた一人前の隊長に近づいたわね。
I actually have,
意外といけるわね、これ。
I like to name things after anime girls. It's a tradition I get from my dad because he used to name all of his computers after anime girls. So I've got an SKS rifle, and it's a paratrooper shortened one. So I was like, I want to name this after somebody, and I also like to name them after appropriate characters. So like that airsoft rifle, the Type 89 that I mentioned, I named it after Yukari because I thought Japanese name for Japanese rifle would be a good name. Well, I got the SKS. I'm like, well, let's name it a Russian name. And I'm like, well, it's short, so what am I going to name it? Because it's an SKS paratrooper. Katusha, because she's short, of course. Perfect. So I named it after her. Good fun. Katusha would probably be upset if she heard that. Tomato pesto. I wonder how that tastes. I've had pesto before. I've got a friend who's crazy about pesto. But tomato pesto I've never had. I wonder if they mean like borscht. But borscht is usually made with beets, not tomatoes, right? Older sister. Yeah, brightening your knowledge, broadening your horizon. Erica's not being mean today? Wow, what's into her? She must be on some good meds. Black Forest Peak. Sorry, I'm tired. I'm probably gonna be ending the stream after we wrap up all this. Ah, yes, Finnish team. I love their like, what is it? Finnish polka music. It strikes a chord with my Slavic heritage. God, this button keeps getting stuck, and I have to like smack it to get it to not. I may have to take my controller apart and clean up this decal. Oh, excuse me, another hiccup. I do. One thing I really do like with the Chihatan is they have like a historic uniform, and I think it looks pretty nice. Like it's interesting. I also kind of like their old-fashioned hairdos. It's just an interesting aesthetic, and it kind of contrasts with the other schools. And it makes Nishi on the right over there stand out compared to them because she has a different uniform and a very different hairstyle compared to any of them. The university team. I also find it kind of appropriate that the university team uses all like top of the line post, like roughly end of World War II, post World War II stuff that is still whatever their competition rules are still allowed. Leopold for the screen. Leopold is a scope manufacturer, if you didn't know. One day I'll get a Leopold scope. I've only got, at this point I've only got Vortex scopes. Vortex is a kind of budget brand, kind of decent. I've got my eyes set on a Night Force scope, but I think I want to save my money instead of buying one of those. Oh yeah, for context, I am a precision rifle competition shooter, very casual at the moment. Planning to get more into it later. Since I brought up the scopes, might as well bring that up. Yay, the credits. We'll just skip through these. Alright, I think that's a good point to end. Thanks everybody for showing up to, let me get my model fixed, there we go. Thank you everybody for showing up to the Girls on Panzer stream. I absolutely freaking adore Girls in Panzer. It is so cute and so great. There is probably no anime better than Girls in Panzer in my opinion. So stream announcements and whatnot. Tomorrow I don't have anything planned. That doesn't mean I won't do anything. I am kind of itching for flight sims. I might do more flight sim stuff tomorrow. I definitely have a flight sim stream planned for Sunday. Typically about 2 p.m. Sunday, I do flight sim Sunday. But I just got some friends into flight sims, that same IL-2 Stormovik flight sim. So hopefully I can get them on and we could try to do some co-op campaign. They're very new, so I don't know how well it will go, because honestly it took me a few days of playing IL-2 to actually learn how to take off and land successfully repeatedly. But if they pick it up quick and they follow the instructions I've told them, then maybe it should go pretty well. And if so, we can do some flight sims on Saturday as well. If not, maybe we'll just do some by ourselves, or maybe I'll play, I don't know, probably on the table is either Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, Halo 3, or maybe Daemon X Machina. I'm not going to commit to any one game because I like to play whatever I feel. I find streaming whatever I like to be... I find streaming whatever I want to play to be kind of relaxing. So I don't want to really commit to anything that I'm not really feeling the energy to play for. It's like my Fallout New Vegas stream last night, I kind of wasn't really feeling it, and it didn't really go that great. Whereas like this, I'm talking all the time. I'm having a great time. It's good. All right, so that's about all I have for announcements. I guess also stream schedule for next week should probably be pretty regular, or at least what it has been typical, or what it has been in the past few weeks. So it's going to be usually like Monday and Thursday, and then Sunday streams, with Friday and Saturday being iffy. Hopefully, I don't know until my IRL friends actually like let me know what we're doing for D&D night and anime nights and whatnot. And then last thing is we are going to go raid somebody. So Amanti is playing Final Fantasy XIV. I bet she is gushing about her husbandu. So we're going to drop in and raid her. Let's go. Thanks for watching.